Been looking forward to our chat. Introduce yourself first of all.
Good morning. This is Warrick Scott, Executive Director of the Wendell Scott Foundation.
And you got there because you are the grandson of whom?
Mr. Wendell Oliver Scott Sr., NASCAR legend.
Yes, and
I'm Frank Scott, son of the legend.
And Frank, it's an honor to have you in here, both of you. You, as I've said in interviews before for our sister station, you lived the life that your dad Wendell lived. You saw why he should be getting his due now. He didn't at the time. Right. Tell us what it was like as a boy, working on his car, working on the crew, being at the races with your family there basically as the crew.
Well, growing up, working on race cars was a part of life. That was our livelihood. That was what my father did. We didn't ever really look at it as a job. It was a 24/7. We never locked the doors on the garage. But, you know, this one, I want to talk about the Wendell Scott Foundation from the standpoint of a fulfillment of a vision that my father had over 50 years ago.
Excellent.
I can remember sitting in a restaurant somewhere in the Deep South. I don't remember which state or what city, but some children were out on the street playing, and my father looked out and he said, you know, if I ever get wealthy racing, I'm going to build orphanage homes all over the South for kids such as these that we're looking at. You could see they had no shoes on, their clothes. It was early in the morning. And so 50 years later, Warrick and my other children and his wife came to fulfill a vision that they didn't even know that my father had 50 years ago. So it's a significance as I did the acceptance speech for the NASCAR Hall of Fame on June 30th. I mentioned that life has a generation component, and this is a fulfillment of a vision that my father had over 50 years ago. Of course, racing was our life. We raced from California to Maine to Florida.
And when you're a kid, it's a great life.
Yeah, but you know, it was work too.
Oh,
you know, it was work.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely work. And we were always operating on a shoestring budget.
Mm-hmm.
My father was really a mechanical engineer with no formal education. He was able to take and do what other people consider an obsolete part. He could take it and compete against them. So this fulfillment has a great significance.
And everything he did, obviously, and we don't need to get too much into this because we know this now, it's just why he's in the Hall of Fame. Everything he did was against tremendously higher odds than the others. And yet he did it because with a lot of people in Warrick, you and I were talking about this, a lot of kids, you've got to encourage them and find that will and that determination inside. Your dad and Warrick, your granddad, was born with that, had that inspiration. He couldn't have done what he did without having that inner belief that it was right for him to do this, no matter what anybody said.
Absolutely. I mean, he had faith. He was a risk taker,
mm-hmm.
But he had no fear. We traveled all over the South during some turbulent years. We were racing all over the South during the civil rights era in the South, but we went to race, and we were always, of course, we had some hostile encounters a few times, but we always came through, and he always motivated us to, you know, don't get caught up in what's going on around you. Let's focus on what we need to do. So.
And that is probably one of the best life lessons anyone could learn, but you learned it live and in person. You didn't read it in a book.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
His legacy, his dream, the Wendell Scott Foundation. Warrick, you're the captain of that team. Tell us about it. And especially the fundraising. We got so much to talk about today.
Right.
We'll try to get it in. This is going to be fun.
Well, the Wendell Scott Foundation, you know, we are a nationally based nonprofit that is headquartered here in Danville, Virginia. Our mission is to serve and work with underserved, underprivileged youth.
And tell us about some of the activities you have with them, some of the opportunities you create for them.
I'm excited to talk about that. We do an after-school program called Steering to STEM, and we're partnered with the Institute of Advanced Learning and Research. They're wonderful partners. With our Steering to STEM program, we provide robotics, coding, aerospace and motorsports, and biology technology. We provide those type of learning tools. We have career options included in it. We take youth on trips to the NASCAR Hall of Fame to explain to them how STEM education is facilitated with motorsports, and even how the facility is resurrected through STEM education.
That they're learning to do something that could be fun.
They're learning something.
Keep learning, yeah.
They're learning something that could be fun, but more importantly, we're getting them in tune and in line for particular career opportunities. And in order to support our region and our state, youth have to be proficient in STEM education, and that's the gateway to the future. So we are one of the leading advocates for STEM education in the state, but we also, on the programmatic side, we also have We have programs to support that, and we have race car simulators as well that aid in the experiential learning component as well.
And running a foundation and being, as you are, a tunnel for kids to an education, to giving meaning to their life. It takes time to do that, takes energy, and it takes money. And that's why, but the fundraisers you guys have come up with are fun fundraisers, cars and jazz.
Absolutely.
What could be better?
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
Cars this weekend, I want you folks to know that, and everybody loves cars, particularly after you get a certain age, and for most guys it's about 3. Right. Everybody loves cars. But some of the cars you're going to have the 11 car there.
Correct.
And the 34 car, which is, tell us about why that's so famous in the movie and everything.
Well, the number 34 car that will be there this Saturday was featured in the ESPN documentary, A Race Story. Mm-hmm. I think it aired in 2010. Mm-hmm. It's the most recent documentary that has been produced on my grandfather on a global scale.
Can people stand by the car and have their picture made?
Yes, people will be able to stand by the car and have the picture taken. We will also have a good friend of my grandfather's, Earl Brooks. Mm-hmm. His number 26 car will be there as well. And that's a historical component all by itself.
Oh, yeah, because he used to build engines with white guy from, was it Lynchburg or Roanoke, up in that area?
Lynchburg.
They call him Earl Lynchburg up there.
Absolutely, absolutely. But what you find, my dad mentioned Bobby Fleming earlier. Mm-hmm. What you find there is a unique kinship and a unique brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And in these trying times that we're dealing with here, not only locally but statewide and nationally, my grandfather's story is a story of hope, mm-hmm. And also diversity.
Yes.
And having community events like this allow the community to come out and engage with one another in a truly historical and positive platform. Mm-hmm. So everybody loves cars, especially in this area. And live music and a beautiful day that God will provide for us. So we're just really looking forward to it, wanting everyone to come out.
This will be at the Danville Mall. We're talking with Frank and Warrick Scott this morning, the son and grandson, of course. And this is the Cruise for a Cause. We would love for you to come. This will be this Saturday, and it's going to be from 3:30 to 7:30 at the mall. There will be live music and a DJ. Is there a charge to get in?
It is a charge to get in. It's $20 a car.
That's if you're bringing your car.
If you're bringing your car.
But for somebody just come and look, is there a charge?
General admission's $5. Okay. Children under 6 are free. Mm-hmm. And I also, one of the things I should have mentioned in the beginning is that we're doing this in conjunction with Omega Psi-Phi, mm-hmm. The Rho Iota chapter, here in Danville, Virginia. And they are really mighty men. They have been leaders in the community for quite some time, and we appreciate them combining with us to be able to provide this event for the community.
This is for the Wendell Scott Foundation. Folks, I want to tell you, you can bring your kids out, and you and they can have their picture made by one of the most historic cars in NASCAR history, the 34 car, or these other cars. The 26 car of Earl Brooks, who was, we got to clarify, Earl was a white guy from up there.
He was a white guy.
But your dad and he were good friends because they found that, like all other athletes do, athletes makes people colorblind. It makes people forget about all they've been told about who we're supposed to like and who we're not, and you become just people.
That's right.
And they're an example of that.
Absolutely.
So if you want to come, $5, there's going to be music there. I mean, they have to pay to get music and DJs and all this stuff. So there'll be live music there. But these cars, this probably will be the most historic cruise in that you've ever seen before.
Absolutely.
Saturday, 3:30 to 7:30. And if you want to put your car into it, it's $20 a car and $15 a bike, right?
That's right. The car staging starts at 2:34, mm-hmm. And the show begins at 3:34. Mm-hmm. And it ends at 7:34, and once again, you can notice
34.
34.
Yeah, 34.
It's a good thing you didn't charge $34 to get in. But hey, $3.40. All right, it's $5. This is history, folks. Having your picture made with this car. It might be a while before you see it again. I'll just mention that we're trying to get a museum here in town, so you will see it again. But anyway, we've got the car show this weekend, and you don't have to remember any of those details. Just remember to Google Wendell Scott Foundation.
Absolutely.
You'll get the details about the Cruise for a Cause, and then the following weekend, Warrick, the jazz. Tell us about it.
Jazz, rhythm and blues. We are one of the title sponsors for the Jazz Festival, along with some other sponsors like Danville Regional, Avery University as well.
It's at the Carrington?
It's at the Carrington, and it is just another opportunity to come out and enjoy yourself, positive community engagement, live music, taking advantage of the Carrington Pavilion, which is one of the best facilities in the state of Virginia.
Yes, it is.
It's another way that we're able to invite people from outside of Danville into Danville and to take advantage of all the things we have to offer. So we're really excited about that as well.
So we could talk about this for 2 hours, but we've got about 2 minutes. The main thing to take away from this is, remember, if you've never done it before, Google Wendell Scott Foundation.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to find out about the history of Wendell Scott. You're going to find about the excitement and the struggles that you lived, Frank, with him as a child. I think you understood enough of it to see what was going on.
Well, absolutely. And my father was ambassador. You know, and people say for the South, he was recognized in a venue that he was the only one. The Scott family was, the only, African Americans there in many cases, but we never looked at it from that standpoint. We looked at it as a point that my father was doing something that he loved to do. He was, as I said, he was not only a driver, he was a car owner, he was a manager. He did so many things to make relationships better across the South, and I think that as time goes on, it's becoming more and more evident of his impact that he had on people. And
sometimes as we close this, I want you to share the story that Warrick, you shared with me, you both have. Talk about how growing up with the garage on the north side of town, how you would people would just drive up just to, the ones who got it would want to see it and see you guys. Tell us.
Well, actually, it was a community center. At that time, the Danville mill was thriving, the tobacco industry was thriving, and guys would go and work their shift, and they wouldn't even go home. They would come by the garage and they'd stay hours, and sometimes their wives would be looking for them, and they'd be at the garage. We called it the shop, and it was a place where we ate the watermelons and cantaloupes, and did the fried bologna sandwiches on the old buck stove, and just people. They weren't necessarily mechanics, but they were there for inspiration, and they were enthused, and it was a community center. We could actually start the race car up in the city at that time, and the neighbors never complained.
Isn't that something?
So that showed the interest that was there. And this thing has really come to fruition. My father's not only his mission, but his vision and his dreams.
So with your memories and then your son Warrick's idealism and energy, and you got the energy of a buzzsaw, which is good, because as your dad knows, it takes that when you start something.
Absolutely. So, I'm much like my grandfather. I'm a bit of a risk taker.
Yes.
And I believe in working 24/7.
It takes that to get things started. Warrick, you're the perfect person for this.
Our youth. In particular, deserve every bit of effort.
And they need it now, because as someone who's been in school administration and teaching and coaching for years, it's not getting better in terms of the opportunities and the education and the home life.
That's right.
So you guys are here to help kind of put a safety net up. Please Google the Wendell Scott Foundation. Find out what they do. Then you'll want to come to this Cruise for a Cause. Only $5. A great show. Bring your camera, because the 34 car is going to be there. And
just one other comment. Students and parents, make sure your children are well-versed in science, technology, and math. You got to have the science. If you get the science, you're going to have the math. You're going to have the technology. This is something that's very, very important to emphasize to your children, your grandchildren. STEM education is, we consider it, the acronyms to mean strategies that engage minds. So STEM education is where we need to go.
That's because that's the people who are going to have the jobs. All right, thank you guys. It's been a privilege to have you here. Keep us up to date on this, and we'll keep reminding people about the Cruise for a Cause this weekend.
Absolutely.
Just Google Wendell Scott, and then check out the jazz coming up next weekend here in town.
Come on out.
Yes, sir.